Welcome to this week's Concurrency Tech Insights webinar series. This is a very special webinar series today because we have a great guest. We're going to be talking about manufacturing IP solutions. And with me this week is Michael Walton. Michael Walton is a manufacturing industry executive with Microsoft. He and I have worked together on numerous customers, transforming the way that they execute in the manufacturing industry on their customer relationships, their partner relationships, their supply chain. And I'm very pleased to introduce Michael today. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much, Nathan. I greatly appreciate it and looking forward to it. Thank you.
Awesome. And my name is Nathan Lesnowski. I'm Concurrency's Chief Technology Officer, and I'll be your host today. And we'll get this thing rolling down the tracks. So today we're going to be talking about manufacturing transformation. We're going to hit hard with 6 manufacturing scenarios where there's an opportunity to transform the way your business operates. We'll be talking about the value of each. Michael is going to dive into some fantastic color commentary on each of those scenarios and what he's seen happening in the industry and at customers right now. And then we want to also remind you about our webinar on Thursday, November 5th, which will be on Windows Virtual Desktop. That is a hot topic right now, particularly with the continued extent to which we are functioning in a work from anywhere state. And we'll be going into why that's useful, what makes sense, why it makes sense, why companies are adopting it. So don't miss that webinar coming up on November 5th as well. So today we're going to talk about 6 different scenarios for transformation. And each of these change the way a business thinks about and executes on how it engages within the manufacturing market, with how it produces products for its customers, how it operates its supply chain, how it sells new products to its customers. And I think each of these are going to be very interesting to the audience that has joined today. They will range from talking about automation of supply chains to having conversations about sales quoting and optimizing the way we interact with our partners, through to customer insights and a whole set of other capabilities as well. So hold on tight because we're going to go into it right now. So the first scenario we're going to talk about is automating your supply chain. This has been, of all the scenarios, I believe this is where there is the most savings in the majority of manufacturers today. There is so much opportunity to be able to change the way you look at your supply chain, the way you interact with your partners, the way you think about inventory and optimizing inventory, and outcompeting your competitors, frankly, in a position to be able to serve your customers, or being in a better position to handle and use your assets, your money, your inventory to the best good. So the main scenario we're going to talk about, and Michael's going to go into some detail about this, is driving supply chain effectiveness. And one of the most impactful areas we've seen has been in the areas of inventory optimization. And that's the amount of inventory, the location of inventory, and the optimization of the warehouse itself and the way that it serves that inventory into the supply chain process. On the right-hand side, you can see some graphics of the spikes that exist within a supply chain timeline. And down here at the bottom, you see the ones that a company would be expecting, where those spikes exist, and then our goal oftentimes is to try to predict what those spikes look like. And we have people in our teams that hack away at Excel spreadsheets or try to pull stuff out of the ERP system to be able to optimize what we have where. And it gets even more challenging when you have more facilities. So what you can see in the lighter gray is where expectation might have existed, where you can optimize the delta between what you would have done and could have done in terms of what you had on the shelf at any given moment. And that might be a scenario where you need more or you need less. And what we're seeing is that this area is an opportunity for applying machine learning and AI to be able to optimize that channel that augments human intuition to be able to do this better. So Michael, can you talk a little bit about what you've seen in the market here, what the savings has been when people have applied artificial intelligence, and also how companies have competitively differentiated themselves by using this capability?
Sure, absolutely. So I've witnessed this not only in the ag sub-vertical of manufacturing for foods manufacturing and upstream, but also within, of course, the discrete manufacturers. I've witnessed this in other manufacturers in the process side. So I don't want to put the finger on, hey, it's just one subgroup of types of manufacturers, because it's not. In addition to that, no disrespect to all the planners. They're doing everything they really can in the original planning solution called Excel, right? So they're taking data from the solution of record, whether it be an ERP, whatever that may be, doing the best they can and transposing and doing insights, looking at the real demand in the market, and then ensuring that the company has enough inventory to meet that demand. However, I can tell you that every single time that we have engaged this together, Nathan, the customers we have worked with have had inventory bloat. And in addition to that, there are actually peak periods in those spikes where they didn't have enough inventory to meet customer demand and ended up potentially with a customer satisfaction problem, or they couldn't meet the OTIF and delivering it on time in full to the full amount of the sales order. I often find that in many cases, this even happens during quarter point or during the seasonal period, perhaps in the for shopping, etc. The long story short is that there's a lot of inventory bloat. And for everybody in our listeners, here's what I found in the ROI, real hard number ROI, is the tens of millions for ones that are around $2.5 billion in revenue and below. And then to the tune of hundreds of millions for those that sit around 20 billion and above. And so I can tell you that these are hard numbers that often customers are not willing to share those numbers, but one of which we do have jointly that does is a company called Clover Imaging. Used to be Clover Technologies, now they've changed their name to Clover Imaging. This was an exact answer to this. You and I and the team actually told the CTO there we thought that we could really help them to effectively affect these inventory evaluation. And as it turns out, a little less than 4 months, 4.5 months worth of effort, we were able to help them reduce tens of millions of dollars of inventory throughout their entire value chain. And that was for phase one, let alone the additional tens of millions we found later as we continue to refine the process.
Yeah, I feel like that's an area, this area in particular, I feel like people feel like it's aspirational. And hey, we've got an ERP system, we've got planners, but in the reality is that just companies aren't able to do good enough here without applying advanced technologies. And that savings is so tangibly there.
And well, it's not just that, I think it's scary. To tell you the truth, I mean, manufacturers, the plants are kind of their own fiefdoms in many ways, and they're told to meet the number of orders, to meet that demand and run efficiently. So the plant owner, you're kind of telling the plant owner, hey, I'm going to take away a little bit of your safety net if in fact we prove that you have too much evaluation at some times and too low at some times. And so I would argue the plant manager should see this as a big tool and aid to ensure that they can meet all orders at all time rather than potentially removing part of a safety net. Then you go a level up, right? The people that are the planners that are involved, the last thing they want to do is be able to hear, hey, look, I'm going to lose my job. Well, I can tell you none of these companies, these people never lost their jobs. In fact, they were the overseers of the work that machine learning was doing to ensure they trained a better model and providing advisory and insight to the company on how to even continue to get greater improvements. I mean, we've got things that are to the tune of somewhere north of, in a sales forecast and demand forecasting, to 96% accuracy. I would argue the industry sits somewhere around 58 to 64% by most studies. Do you know how much inventory bloat there is associated to that? It's quite frightening.
Yeah, that's quite remarkable. All right, so let's move on to our next story, which is intelligent quoting. This is really about taking something that's very obvious in sense in the consumer space and making it something that is much more capable in the business space. So everybody's aware of Starbucks. You're familiar with the story. When COVID happened, a lot of people moved toward using apps to buying their coffee. And even before COVID, a lot of people are just kind of showing up at the coffee shop and picking up their order. And I was thinking, how are they doing that? Well, they're doing it with an app, right? They're optimizing the experience. But now with COVID, They've even gotten to a point where they're starting to predict the kinds of products you want to buy based upon the time of day and where you are, and even directing you to the store that has the least queue at that particular point. Where this is very relevant, not just in the consumer space, but also in the manufacturing space, because it allows us, especially in B2B ordering, to optimize our time to quote and to deliver product in a way that outcompetes our competitors. Several customers that we've worked with have had very diverse sets of SKUs that they've sold to their customers, and they've taken a long time to be able to quote to those customers because of how difficult it can be for them to be educated on the right SKUs, to pick the right one based upon the request, and then get it back to the customer expeditiously. Well, many of our customers are finding that when they apply artificial intelligence to that aspect of the quoting engine, they're able to inform, and not necessarily even having to use training, they're able to inform the intelligent individual, or even use an intelligent agent like a bot to be able to provide quotes back to their customers faster based upon available inventory and knowledge of the supply chain that sits behind it. So this is something that's really having a positive impact in revenue production, because you're able to outcompete competitors that would have maybe been more agile, maybe been more local than you, but able to turn around requests via varieties of experiences that increase your revenue by 1%, 2%, 3%, which in cases of many billion-dollar companies, that's a lot of money. Michael, what have you seen in this space?
Well, there's 3 points that I've witnessed in this space, and I love this one particular use case in many ways because it's top line revenue generating and it improves the bottom line. So number one is that there's a lot of studies out there, many of them you can find them for years, that have shown that the quote that has arrived first and is most accurate within the tolerance the customer is looking for in terms of price is often the winner the majority of the time. So speed to quote, time to get that quote, and being able to do it same day or within the hour or within minutes can differentiate you from your competition. Number two, B2B2C is now B2C in many ways. Most companies in CPG, manufacturing, and retail are capturing this channel globally, and we're seeing upwards of 1,500, 1,600% in growth of this channel of connecting in different ways to the customer beyond the brick and mortar, beyond a typical customer big box or an online such as like an Amazon. And so we're seeing tremendous growth in different ways of the customer experience transforming, but being able to have time to quote, have it accurate with the best optimal price to gain that market share is critical. The third thing I wanted to mention in this use case is that top line growth. I have customer after customer after customer when I speak to the CEO or the vice president of sales, and they often say, look, we're leaving revenue on the table. It's pure and simple, we're leaving it on the table. So a company, even as much as like a company like a Starbucks, I mean, having the product there at the right time, being able to forecast where you're going to need it, optimizing your channel to get it there in supply chain and your purchasing, and ensuring that the quoting process or that sales price is optimal for that region to sell that product. I mean, come on, that's just gold. That's top line revenue and bottom line improvement, and it's differentiating to your customer, and it really isn't overly complex to do.
Absolutely. Awesome points. All right, our next scenario, and this is one that really speaks to me on a lot of levels, is the ideas around artificial intelligence for good. And what the story is about is Concurrency worked with an organization, this happens to be Clover, which is one of the ones we referenced earlier, around enabling a set of individuals who have cognitive disabilities to be able to do work within their manufacturing environment. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know is that 1 in 4 adults have a disability, and they're twice as high to be underemployed. Really, this is a space where we have a great number of people that could be doing work within the workforce at some of these levels, but we haven't enabled them to do so. So what we set out to do is to create a platform that enabled individuals to be able to do this kind of work. In this case, it was picking work within a safe warehouse environment with an augmented reality solution. Now, these individuals would be able to do that work without that augmented reality solution if they had a human partner. But because human partners are not always available, it makes it difficult to sometimes employ individuals with this sort of disability. But if we enable them with augmented reality in this case, which is using audio input and tracing within the location and understanding of where the pickable parts exist within the warehouse, we can guide them with this technology to be able to do this well. Now, there's two aspects of this that I think are really important. One is it enables a whole set of employees that can be part of your workforce, and that also has a positive external impact just in terms of visibility, goodness in the world, purpose-driven technology. It also has a side benefit of benefiting very highly functioning pickers because it can help them to be faster as well. The same technology that you're using to make this available for individuals with cognitive disabilities and to pick at a very high rate also enables individuals without that disability to be able to work faster as well. So Michael, you're also very close to this scenario. Can you talk about your experiences with it?
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, it's in the news all the time. We're talking about equal access to technology, equal access to opportunity to contribute to society and in a job. This was spot on accessibility. For all you in the audience, this is very real. I know that like with Concurrency, they have accelerators to make this happen. I ask and I call upon you to take a look at this. It's very strong. So for your existing employees, I've witnessed a 2x and 2.3x times, depending on the customer, of efficiency gains around the actual employees doing picking and sorting, receiving, shipping, all throughout the warehouse and in the plant. And it's really not very hard. Once we figured that science out about it, it wasn't all that hard for AI and augmented reality to help them. The other thing you might say is, well, some persons don't want to wear a headset, or some people don't want to. There's all kinds of different ways to do this that we've already figured out with Concurrency. It works. Now, for those without disabilities, as I said, 2 to 2.3x, those are the numbers we're tracking on a productivity gain. That is for the opportunity phenomenal. The next thing is I want to share with you is for those that want employment that have disabilities. Let me give you another stat. They're 4 times likely to stay with their employer. Think about that. They're not only underemployed, but they're 4 times more loyal than other employees. And it's an almost untapped set of resources. We got to go do this. I call upon everyone, take a look at it, just engage. Let's make a difference. And it makes a difference for your company's bottom line and in improvements and employees.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. All right, next one. This is something I'm really excited about, and we've worked with, in this case, an organization on this, many organizations on this particular journey, but you can see one up on the screen right now, which is the idea of connected products. It's the idea of taking something that is an opportunity to be able to add new revenue, add new experience, add new relationship to your employee, and really it's table stakes to be in the market today. It's a table stake that people look for when they buy a new product as a differentiator. I just recently had bought a new stove. First thing I looked for was it a smart stove? Can I control and manage that stove from my app? Whether I actually need to or not, it is a table stake for me when I'm buying a new product. In this case, we're talking about a connected boat. The idea around I've sold a boat through a distribution channel, and when I've sold that boat through the distribution channel, I have, in a sense, lost connection to my customer, and I want to now regain that connection to my customer by having a direct relationship with them through a smart boating platform that then also provides direct value add to the customer of an experience that does an off-boat, provides an off-boat experience, provides an on-boat experience, then also then provides direct product sale to the customer in conjunction with my distribution model and maybe even around my distribution model. And that's not to say that it's necessarily usurping it, but it's creating a better partnership between the distributor that maybe is doing intelligent selling with a consumer and the direct relationship that we've seen happen with companies like Tesla when they're selling direct and having a direct relationship with their customer. So we're trying to combine both of those capabilities by building connected products. And this is something that I think is just critical to anybody building a product today, that they have that, not that physical, tangible experience, but also the digital experience. Michael, can you speak a little bit about that idea?
Well, I'm in the market for a boat, so I'm sure Brunswick's very happy about that. So I can tell you, I am in the market for a boat, and I was like, because I didn't help you do this one, but I've done a lot of connected product kind of strategy with different customers, and I was extraordinarily impressed. You know, they not only passed, they have passed the table stakes. Now I know that they're looking to go deeper on this with you guys, and I just can't amplify enough. I want that connected boater experience. Furthermore, I just don't think the consumers are really interested in having, when they, every time they want to get a part, or every time they want something goes wrong, or they want to enhance their boat, whatever, they have to go to the dealer. Why do I don't want to have to do that. So with a connected boat experience, one, in the approach that they've taken, now I don't have to do that. And I just got to tell you, I love the products they produce. I'm a big fisherman, and I just can't see me not getting a connected boat in my next boat purchase.
Awesome. All right, our next story is surrounding predictive maintenance, the idea around driving either operational savings or new revenue from proactive servicing. And you know, what's interesting about this is it's all about finding patterns, and those patterns then will lead us to anomaly detection. And there's two opportunities that presents. One is in the presentation of, I have a manufacturing environment. I want to keep that manufacturing environment functioning and at a continuous level when it needs to produce. Because every time it's not producing when I need it to be producing, I'm losing money. But then also on the flip side, especially large products that are sold to customers, high value products, in good times, you may be selling new products. And not as good at times, you may be servicing those existing products that you've sold. And the more proactive the relationship between the servicer and the person being serviced, the company being serviced, the more opportunity you have to create that continuous revenue stream with your customer and to mitigate those failures that become emergencies for them by the product that you've sold. So this is both a revenue production area as well as a revenue save, as well as an operational savings area. Michael, do you want to talk about your experiences there?
I just want to also add, this is an important component that contributes to a high degree of operational equipment efficiency, OEE. You know, and in addition to that, it also, this particular use case is often attributed to 40% of quality problems, because when they're rolling out a product, a new product introduction or a modification to a product or a batch product, what have you, when there are anomalies, meaning upper bound left or right limits that are going and trending outward, that can lead to quality problems. So I also want to share that with the organization, with the attendees, that when you're doing this, you're also addressing not only your top line, your bottom line, but the overall efficiency and planning is more predictable. And the quality, it really addresses a lot of quality problems. I often find companies who say, well, I got to start with quality first and go deep. And I often say, no, you need to look at anomaly detection and condition-based maintenance, predictive maintenance, because that's going to fix, it has a whole treasure trove of things that it'll address. Then we can really sort out the real quality problems and go deeper on those. So this one is one that every manufacturer should be doing, small, medium, or large. This is an all too mature use case. If you're not doing it, we need to do it, because it's just, it is a treasure trove of cost improvement and also helping you to build your top line.
There's so many ways to get the data to be able to do anomaly detection as well, like sensor data. It could be visual information. It could be how long it's taking the manufacturing process to run. So don't feel like you necessarily don't always have the data. That's an opportunity to be able to discover what's even necessary and very attainable. This is just a space that it's just waiting to be tapped inside of your manufacturing or your product environment.
It's an excellent point. I have a customer using custom vision that is literally watching the motorized equipment move, because it doesn't have a PLC controller. It's an old school set of cranes. They do galvanization of metals. And now with using a custom vision, they're able to see, is it operating in terms of the time and speed? Are there any variances? And it's led to, wait a minute, we may have some problems to do some maintenance proactively instead of time-based. Save them already lots of money.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk a little bit about customer insights. This is where we're seeing big data applied to be able to make intelligent decisions within either the supply chain or new sales. So with this, I'm going to show the analytics maturity curve, which really talks about the delta that exists between the way we handle a lot of data today and what's necessary to be able to achieve some of these insights. In the lower left-hand corner, you see the idea around like we have Excel all over our organization. It's not aggregated. It's not thought about as a set of data we're pulling information from. It's thought about as these little pockets of data that I'm trying to make decisions on. We then bring that up the maturity curve through visualization into the idea of building a modern data framework, which is the idea not necessarily that I'm pulling everything into the cloud, but more the idea that I'm thinking about it as an overall set, that the necessary data is pulled into the cloud for me to be able to make bigger types of decisions. And the transformation I've seen in this particular domain is that once companies get a handle on the aggregate of their data, sometimes it unlocks new revenue opportunities that exist on top of that data in an ethical way, but also lets them, because they're seeing that data as an aggregate, they can sell back certain types of wisdom to their customers. They can understand their supply chain in a way that they couldn't previously understand. They can think about their selling motion and who their customers should be based upon information that they're gathering from the aggregate. And this is where many companies don't even see that opportunity until they've unlocked the aggregate of that data to be able to make those intelligent decisions. So Michael, can you talk a little bit about where you've seen that change the way your manufacturers are thinking about their business?
Well, I want to first say that Excel is a data source, so you can use that as a data source for what you do. The next thing is that if data is the new oil, then insights and to impact for data is the new water, because everyone has data and everyone needs water. I believe that over and over. I can say that we see new lines of revenue where companies never ever thought about it, but in helping them to look at new outcomes, because of the data they have, we've identified many times over new lines of revenue, not just the bottom line improvement operationally, of course, which is like there's so much wealth there, but the new lines of revenue. And during COVID, I've witnessed some customers who have been 30 to 40% off their revenues start 2 and 3 new lines that have bridged that gap of new line revenue. And they've been able to do it with the insights to their own data.
Awesome. All right. Well, we've covered 6 scenarios just at the surface. Michael has just been a huge wealth of knowledge in terms of experience on these, and we're super thankful that he joined us for the webinar up to this point. So thank you, Michael. What we're going to talk about, just to close this up, is how do we take action? So in listening to these stories, I'm hoping that you understood there is an opportunity to do something impactful within our business. And the leaders who are change agents within our customers are then seeing that opportunity and taking action on it. And what we've done is we've put together a very complete next step to be able to take these ideas into action within your business. The next step for us is to engage you in a project workshop. And that is to examine these 6 scenarios and talk about which of those 6 scenarios has the most meat on the bone. Where is that opportunity? Where does it go from aspirational to real within your business? Each of these have about a 50K pilot. A lot of times there's funding that augments that 50K pilot and makes it even less expensive to get started. And then we move after proving it in the pilot, proving that this delivers the ROI that is expected, showing that it's going to work. We then move that into project implementation and through to full return on investment. So our goal, if we're successful, is you achieve the return on investment that exists behind these solutions. That is why you do it. You don't do it to just play around with technology. You do it to get ROI. And that's why we want to engage as well. And that's why we put this next step plan together. So do not leave this on the table. We want to see everyone who's on the webinar today have a conversation with Concurrency in a project kickoff workshop to talk about those 6 scenarios, have us arrive at why the ROI is real, and then take it through to a project pilot stage where we prove it to the business. So our next step for you is let's meet virtually one-on-one with Concurrency to have a well thought out conversation about that next step. Also, if you thought this webinar was interesting and you want to invite other people to it, or you want to come next time, please do. We have on Thursday, November 5th, our Windows Virtual Desktop webinar. And then by all means, visit concurrency.com, All of these stories we talked about today are live case studies on concurrency.com where we talk about what we did today, a lot of videos, a lot of conversations. The scenario with AI technology for good is out there. So by all means, check us out and we'll have a very interesting, positive conversation about the ROI that we can drive together. So thank you for attending the webinar today. Thank you again to Michael for joining us and have a great rest of your day.
Take care, everybody.